Oedipus gives us a wonderful opportunity to dip into our toolbox. Oedipus is incredibly rich and over years has given scholars in many different fields good opportunity to think with the materials that Sophocles presents us. I'll just present a few ideas that are only just scratching the surface of what can be learned from this incredibly rich story that Sophocles passes down to us. First of all, turning a functionalist lens on what we're looking at. Remember, functionalist says that myths are told in order to legitimize and authorize social norms in the culture that is telling the myths to themselves. Now, in this case, there are multiple social norms that are getting authorized and legitimized. Number one, an obvious prohibition against incest is being shown to be the right kind of thing to do. It's being exhibited to us the possibilities of awfulness that come from committing of incest, and the prohibition against it is definitely here underlined, authorized, and legitimized. Then also another piece of this that's been coming out of my own presentation, but I just wanted to label this as a specifically functionalist kind of reading. This is the importance of the role of Delphi in ancient Greek society. We have a very strong message built into this play that divine wisdom that comes from oracles should be heeded. The traditional set of structures around the oracles, the temple sites, the people that run the oracles, these people are being authorized by this story. We see in Oedipus's case someone that in the end turns against the oracle, thumbs his nose at it, and tries to talk about his own grandeur as opposed to the oracle being wrong. This is the wrong way to go. I mentioned in one of the earlier lectures that the right thing to do if an oracle tells you some disturbing piece of information is to go back to the oracle. You might say, I didn't like what you told me. Or you might say to the oracle, well, so what am I supposed to do since you've given me this awful kind of information? But Oedipus takes it into his own hands to try to run away from the things that the oracles told him. And then as his story gets more and more complex and he goes farther and farther away from the original message that he gets from the oracle, he eventually turns against the oracle, saying that, yes, for me to be okay, the oracle has to be wrong. Well, that's strategically a blunder. You should never put yourself in a position like that. Oedipus's play, through a functionalist lens, is authorizing this important social role of the oracle as a keeper and protector of truths in a society. Looking through a Freudian lens, there's obviously, we could talk for the rest of the rest of our time together about possible Freudian readings on the Oedipus story. But yes, indeed, just to give a schematic outline of it, Freud would tell us, sure, of course, we're repulsed by Oedipus, but it's true that all of us are, in the end, repellent to ourselves because we have these core primal desires. We live in ignorance of these primal desires. So like Oedipus, we're in ignorance of our own crimes, since we're constantly, in our case, we're constantly repressing them. We have conflicting feelings. Freud says, Freudian slip. Freud says we have conflicting feelings about our parents. We have feelings that are maybe too strong. They're upsetting to us, and so we consistently repress them. Freud will tell us, yes, the Oedipus story grows out of precisely those strong repressed emotions of a sense of the son having competitiveness with the father and a sense of intimacy with the mother. These desires come out, we repress them, but they have to make their way out, otherwise the steam kettle is in danger of blowing. So we have things like dreams, which consistently do show things as people collect examples of dreams across societies. Struggles with fathers are common. Intimacy with mothers are common in these kinds of dreams. And Freud would say that Oedipus grows out of a primeval set of these dreams, and his myth is like the dream of an entire culture trying to live out these allowing a repressed desire to come out in a displaced form onto a now separate human being, Oedipus, onto whom we can kind of drop all of these desires, let him express them for us. We live out those desires through him, and in the end find him repulsive. So we eschew him and send him on his way. From a structuralist reading, we were developing this when we looked at this question of autochthony in the story. Remember, there were hints in Oedipus's tale of a connection that he feels like he has with Kithiron. Back when he's trying to imagine what his own complex lineage is, he goes from the question of lineage directly to the question of the land where he's from and blends those two together. He is expressing a very old and stubborn idea about where humans come from in Greek mythology. Very old and very stubborn idea. It doesn't go away. The idea that human beings might just sprout up from the earth itself is something that shows up in ancient Greek mythology. It is hard to eradicate because I think of its appeal. Number one, it gets rid of the problem of wanderingness. It shows that human beings do indeed belong to a certain kind of earth because that earth gives birth to them. It also allows, in the case of Oedipus makes this explicit for us, it allows for a certain kind of escapism from the complexities that we have with genealogical descent. To claim that a person is from a mother and a father and has a crazy uncle and a strange cousin and all the complexities that a family entails can be burdensome. And the idea of autochthony gives you not only this connectedness and rootedness to the land, but also a chance to think of yourself as having a lineage that is displaced from all the people in a family background that might be very complex and might get very burdensome. So a structuralist might look at the Oedipus story, and even the whole story from Cadmus on forward, as a family that's oscillating between, on the one hand, embracing the idea of genetic lineage and background in their family, and on the other hand, talking about autochthonous birth from the land itself. And both of these, I think you can find anchored in Oedipus's story. Again, neither one of them is exactly resolved. It's not as though the tension between these two ideas just kind of gets worked out through the story. Instead, you've got a human realization that we come from other people, which makes our lives complex, and a human fantasy, which turns out to be very hard to eradicate, that claims that we come from the land itself. These two things are in tension, and the tension creates a kind of voltage, and a structuralist would claim that the Oedipus myth is a result of the tense voltage between these two poles that can't really be reconciled, but whose expression we find both side by side in Sophocles' very rich tale of Oedipus.